Hello, hello. Good evening. Buenas tardes. Porque right now it is 5 p.m. here in Mexico City. So technically it's not night yet because Mexico, or the majority of Mexico, changed time this past weekend. So right now, the majority of Mexico, not all of it, is on standard time, while the majority of the US is still on daylight savings time. So it's not nighttime here yet. So, buenas tardes. I'm sure none of you cared about that, but I felt the need to explain. Uh, Glad y'all are joining me. Um, I see some of y'all are in the chat, and I wondered, okay, a couple of things about tonight's discussion or tonight's conversation. I wondered if anybody would even be interested in this topic, because I am getting ready to go to the US so I could vote. So I thought, well, why not? Let's talk about that. But I see some of y'all are here already and are like, yes, I have very strong opinions about this. Um, and what was the other thing? Oh, yeah. Okay. On the thumbnail for this video, it asked, does my expat vote matters? And before it's not my people that's going to be in my comments. It's going to be somebody else, somebody brand new that YouTube serves this video to. Yes, I do know the difference between an expat and an immigrant. And in Mexico, I consider myself to be an immigrant because this is where I plan to reside, probably permanently. But I have lived and voted as an expat in three other countries: Honduras, China, and Kuwait. So before y'all come for me in my comments, I know what I'm talking about. I know the difference between those two. So, hey y'all. Hey y'all. Okay. All right. So, I guess we just get started and jump off in here. Oh, uh, before I do, in case there is somebody new here, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Adelia Borshade. I am a financial educator and relocation specialist who mostly helps Black women develop the financial confidence necessary to live the life of their dreams. I do that through one on one coaching. I host a Get Started Investing Challenge, which we just finished. And if you're interested, you can sign up to get on the wait list. And I host the Financial Confidence Academy, a subscription that brings financial education information directly to you. So I'm all about how can you live the life you want, and underlying all of that is money. So that's what I do. This is my channel. We talk about that. We talk about living abroad. I've been an expat for 6 years. We talk about solo travel. I am an avid solo traveler. I host a group on Facebook for Black women in femme solo travelers called Picky Girls Travel Solo. So if any of those topics are of interest to you, you are definitely in the right place, and you should subscribe to the channel. Not sure what's going on with my light. Maybe it's because it's a different time of day and I'm not used to lighting here. Okay, so let's talk about voting, y'all. Okay, so some of you may not know that I will be flying to the US tomorrow, specifically for the purpose of voting in the midterm election for 2022. And it's something I've been doing for a little while. And a friend was here visiting and asked me a question I really didn't have an answer to. And it was, why bother? Like, I don't live in the United States anymore. I don't intend to ever live there again. So why am I going through the trouble and the expense of flying to the US, having to rent a car because Houston is not a place you can be without a car. Why am I going through all of this to vote in a country that views me as a second class citizen? And I really did not have a good answer for that. So that's kind of I and that her question then got me to thinking like, okay, so why am I why am I doing this? Does it even matter that I do this? Because here I am, I'm one person, you know, um, I originally left the US in 2016. I decided to move abroad in February of 2016. So my plans were already in motion before the election. So who was running for president really had no impact on my plans to move abroad. But of course, given who the candidates were, uh, I wanted to make sure that I voted. And this was my first experience with like absentee voting and all of that. And it was not a good experience, not at all. Um, Winnie B says, yes, your vote counts. You're still a citizen. It's like they say in Chicago, vote early, vote often. Yeah, I am still a citizen, and that's not gonna change anytime soon. Um, Comfort says there are a lot of people who don't want us to vote, and I think that part might be part of why I am willing to go through all of the hassle and the expense to do that. Um, I am my domicile state is Texas, and that is a state that has proven that it doesn't want people who look like me to vote. Um, so yeah. Okay, glass half full just filled out her ballot today. I had always here's the thing, like, if y'all are my age or older and a Black person, I'm sure from the time that you can remember, you've been encouraged to vote. You've been told, "You gotta go out and vote, you gotta vote," like, that was a thing. I can remember going to going to vote with my mother, being in the election booth, so, like, it was ingrained in me from a very, very early age. I continued that. I ingrained it in the hundreds, if not thousands, of students I had du- during my career as a social studies teacher. So, like, it seems like it's always been a part of my life. And I never really thought that that was going to change when I left the United States. Um, and I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I got conflicted feelings about it. Okay, Vanessa, this makes me feel a little bit better. You're reaching back to help people until we are fortunate enough to leave the US. I applaud your efforts. I appreciate that. Um, Okay, Angela, you do have a point because Uncle Sam always wants his money. Doesn't matter where I live in the world. Uncle Sam got his hand out. So I got to pay taxes. I got to at least file taxes. So I might as well vote, right? Um, it's just that it's okay. It's hard for me because I am from Texas. Like, I didn't really understand that until I had my first experience with the absentee voting process when I moved to Honduras in 2016. And some of the Americans I worked with, they were from different states. And so, like, there were some people who could vote online. There were, they could email their ballot back and all that kind of stuff. And then here comes Texas, where like I had to stay on them to get them to send me a ballot. Okay, part of it is I don't think the system is really set up for folks who live outside the country. If you're in the military and you don't live in the US and it's time to vote, there are systems in place. But when you're a regular civilian and you're trying to vote, I think it's a little different. Um, they were like, okay, sure, give us your mailing address and we'll send you the ballot. If y'all have watched any of the videos where I've talked about living in Honduras, you know that mailing addresses are not a thing in Honduras. So where were they going to send the ballot? To next to the school, Brown Gate? Because that to Tegucigalpa, Honduras, because that was my address, you know? So getting it in the mail and then trying to explain to them that I live in a country where you cannot send me mail and like expect me to get it, that was a whole thing. So then they were like, okay, we will email you the ballot. But I could not complete the ballot and email it back. Texas does not have that. Uh, they gave me a set of instructions with how to print the ballot and then how I had to like um, address the outside of it. Like the ballot needed to be in an envelope, and that envelope needed to say certain things, and then that envelope had to be enclosed inside of another envelope that had something else on it, and then there was the outside envelope. Something that I hadn't considered was, okay, so I got the ballot. How do I get it back to them in a country where there is no postal service? Um, I thought you could vote through the embassy. As far as I know, you can't vote through the embassy, but you can return your ballot. Um, because when you mail something at the embassy, it's like mailing it in the US. So I was kind of faced with, do I pay a couple of $100 to like FedEx this ballot to someplace? Or do I go to the embassy and drop it off? And at least two of the countries I've been in, through emails I got from STEP, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. I can never remember what that stands for. We were told like these are the dates you can drop off your ballot, so on and so forth. I think by the time I had gotten my ballot in 2016, it was too late for that. Luckily, a friend of my daughter's worked for USAID and had connects. He was going to the US. And so several of us was like, here's our ballots. And then he mailed them once he got to the US. But I was very, very unimpressed with the absentee ballot I got from the state of Texas. And then I was like, well, how do I know that they ever got my ballot? How do I know it was processed? Because one of my big concerns, because we knew it was going to be kind of a close election, one of my big concerns was, what if my ballot doesn't get there before election day? Are they really going to count it? Like, I don't know. I just don't really have faith in the system. Uh, and so all of these things were like occurring to me. So I attempted to vote in 2016. I really have no idea if my ballot ever got where it was supposed to go. I don't know if they counted it, because I've seen a lot of stories about like, oh, absentee ballots came in, but they like reject them because of a signature or something like that. So I just was left feeling very like this system is bogus and I don't really trust it. And so I'm trying to think, was it after that? No, I think my intention after that was to physically go, because I left Honduras, I moved to Mexico City. Mexico City is a 2-hour flight from Houston, and I think my plan was going to be to physically vote in Texas, but that didn't happen because I moved to Kuwait. Um, they so I And the move to Kuwait was very fast, in some ways, very slow in other ways, kind of unexpected because I really, um, you know, I didn't that wasn't part of the initial plan, but it became part of the plan. So things I didn't really have my shit together. Um, this comment from Pearl, we've seen what happens when we don't vote. And I think that might be the thing that makes me try to do this, is because we have seen what happens when we don't vote. You know, they talk about all the time, you don't vote, you can't complain. Uh, and not voting, I think we've also seen, is also a vote for the person that you don't want. So I don't know. I don't know. Wendy, interesting. You should ask about DHL because the way the timing worked with my visa and when I actually arrived in Kuwait, I was going to have to vote for Kuwait. I was not enthusiastic about this whole ballot process again. And then it was like, okay, so how do I get the ballot back? And for some reason, I don't remember all the details because I try to block a lot of my time in Kuwait out. I just remember like my only option was to DHL my ballot. And I think it was going to be $80 or something like that. And then also, I hadn't been in the country very long. Um, there weren't a lot of Americans who were also trying to vote. So, like, my ability to ask somebody else, hey, how are you sending in your ballot? What are you doing? Not so much because the people I worked with were from like New Zealand and Jordan. They were from like all these other countries. So I think I couldn't figure out like where the DHL was or how to make that happen or how to get there because in Kuwait City there are buses, but they're not super great. So I did not mail my ballot in, and I felt really bad about that, and I didn't like the way things turned out. So um, I'm trying to think. I don't know if there was I can't remember. There must have been an election while I was in no. Was there an election while I was in China? I don't know. I don't remember. But as soon as I escaped from China during the pandemic and I moved to Mexico, part of my flight planning, like when I bought the flight that got me out of China, I had to buy a round trip from San Francisco, San Diego, one of those places in California to Mexico City because it was a cheaper flight. And I was like, that's fine. I'll make the return date in October so I can go and vote. And so that began the whole like, oh, I'll just physically go vote because that's the only way I know that it will happen. Because of where I am registered to vote. Well, first of all, let me back up a sec. I don't know, do y'all remember the there were several states that during the height of the pandemic, when it should have been obvious, we did not want people standing in line, breathing on each other, that we should have embraced, absentee voting. There were several states that were like, hell no, we ain't doing that. We gonna try and pull that back. Um, no shocker here, Texas is one of those. So um, that coupled with the fact that where I am registered to vote in the state of Texas is a predominantly Black district. And so I've seen, all these different rules that they've tried to put into place. Like, is it in Georgia where you can't take people standing in line water while they're in line to vote? But at the same time, they closed down precinct voting places in predominantly Black districts so that the line is longer to discourage voting, that sort of thing. So, my plan has really been to try and vote during early voting where I can vote anywhere in the county, not just my Black neighborhood, where I think they will try and pull some shenanigans. Um, so I don't vote on election day. I will be on election day. I will not be in the US. I will be back home in Mexico. And I try to always vote during early voting. So that's what I am going to be doing tomorrow, actually. That is my plan for tomorrow. Okay. Auntie Trey, I am so conflicted. One side of me just doesn't care about voting, but then I feel the guilt of everything my ancestors went through for the right to vote. Same, girl, same. I That is the boat that I am in. I heard some speech. I think that's what changed for me. It was a speech, an old speech by what is her name? She was like the first woman to run for president. She's also from Texas. She has a very, very distinct voice. I cannot think of her name now. Shirley Chisholm. And I was like, you know what? You do have a responsibility. All of the lives lost and the violence suffered in order for you to have the right to do that. So I that maybe that's what's at the core of my decision to go vote. Uh, yeah. So so I was just looking at. Let me see if I can share this with y'all. Let me see. If somebody is watching this and they are curious about how you vote when you are overseas, because everybody does not have the time, uh, the financial situation to do this. Um, Let me see if I can share. If I do this, can I share my screen? I can share a window. Okay, I can share a Chrome tab. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, here, I'm gonna share this with y'all. Okay, so if you're watching this and you want to know more about like voting from abroad, this is the Federal Voting Assistance Program. Um, you, as a US citizen, you have the right to vote in federal elections. Like that has to happen. And you can request a ballot from these people. But if the way I understand it, if you want to vote in local elections, that's a little different. Okay. And so this shows how voters can submit their federal write in their ballot or their federal level absentee ballot. And so what you notice is the places in the lighter blue, those people can email theirs in. I could not find when I looked on here an explanation of why Texas has an asterisk next to it, but I'm sure that's not a good thing. If you come back up to the top, you can look at overseas voter information like how to vote absentee, figuring out your voting residency, and all of that. They let you look up by your state. Uh, Okay, hold on. Where's the button where you can look at your state? I guess it is here. Okay, so I can go to Texas and it tells me what I can do there, you know, and all of this stuff, and the state voting guidelines, yada, yada, yada. So I think voting in federal elections is a lot easier when you are abroad, but trying to vote in the local elections, that requires a little bit more work on your part. Um, so I don't know. Does my vote matter? I don't know, y'all. Can we answer that question tonight? Um, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had some uh some kind of wisdom. I don't know. What do y'all think? I think I know what y'all think. Teresa voted yesterday with her 20-year-old son. Y'all, I tried to get my kids to vote, and hearing from me apparently did not do it. I don't think my children vote, which is disheartening. And I think that's one of the reasons I also feel compelled to vote, is kind of to make up for it. Yes, that is the bonus. So, like, I know going, because I don't typically plan to visit the US. Typically, I visit the US because I have a flight. And so I'll often, like, I'm connecting a flight. Like last year, I was there in December because I was trying to fly to Italy. And because of the COVID restrictions, I could not enter Italy coming from Mexico. I needed to enter from the US. So I built in a couple of extra days on my trip to hang out with the grandkids. And so I knew the election was coming. So I already kind of knew, like, oh, well, I'll be in Texas in October of 2022, October, November. Okay. So yes, I will get to see them. Um, I'm bringing Mia with me, so they will be really excited about that, because they're often more excited to see her um, than they are me. So yeah, there's that bonus. There is the fact that I have ordered more fabric that I shouldn't have, but there was a sale, and I saw a few pieces that I really didn't think I could live without. So I will, because I knew I would be there in October, I had those orders sent to Texas because the shipping was free, as opposed to the shipping being like exorbitant for it to be delivered here. I'm going to I have an appointment tomorrow to get my bivalent COVID booster. Exciting, exciting. Um, so yeah, like I make a thing of it, and like try and take care of various things, connect with a few people I haven't seen, because the last few times that I have been in Texas was either specifically to vote, to help with kids sick with COVID when the new baby came, but it was basically like I kept my bubble very small because I wasn't trying to get COVID. So, there are a few people I haven't been able to see over the last couple of years. So I'll do that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I hadn't really thought about it. It's just something I do until my friend asked. And she was like, like, why go through all that trouble? And it's not a horrible question. Not at all. Um, okay, seeing what y'all talking about in the chat. Does my vote matter to me? I saw your question, Valerina. I don't know. I don't know. I'm Gen X, so I'm already like distrustful of the system and very cynical. And then with the nonsense we've seen in the last 5 years, I don't know. But I guess it's more like better safe than sorry. Like, I'll go vote, because on the off chance it does count, I want to do my part. But like, do I have 100% faith in the system? Unfortunately, I do not, and I wish that was different. I wish that was different. Um, I went through, in preparation for my trip, I went through kind of like, I forget the organization, but basically they list all the races and who the candidates are, and they include a little blurb from the candidate, and discovered that a girl I went to junior high school with is running for office. So I can vote for her. Her politics seem to line up with mine. Ooh, this is a good point. This is a very good point. The reason I vote is because in college, a friend was running for office, and he lost by the number of people sitting at our table who didn't vote. Yeah, I think we forget that Elections aren't always blowouts. Sometimes they are really, really close. And we shouldn't forget that because we've seen that in the last few years, where, they were coming down to within a few votes, a few hundred votes. I see that y'all are having quite the political discussion in the chat. I'm not going to wade into that because the internet already be mad at me. Yeah. There are close races, and I don't know. I'm not psychic. I don't know if a race is going to be close, so I might as well vote just in case it is, and I can do what I can and I can help out. Um so yeah, that's the plan. Uh I also wanted to talk about not just the voting piece of it, but kind of like, I don't know how we navigate this as people who live outside of our passport country. Um, you know, expats generally are people who are living in another country um, temporarily, and the idea is that they will probably return to their passport country. Um, Even when I left the US and I knew Honduras was not gonna be home, I was not trying to return to the US, but I did not consider myself an immigrant in Honduras because that's not where I was trying to stay. Um, uh, I lost my train of thought. Um, so so the I don't know where I was going with that, y'all. I'm sorry. I've got a headache and it's affecting my thinking. And I think I saw this question and it derailed me too. When's the last time you actually voted for someone? I always find myself voting against someone or something. And that is unfortunately very true. Especially with the way the US system is structured. I used to teach early US history, and there were two things that George Washington said when he was given his farewell address, and that was to avoid like political parties and to avoid like what was the other one? Basically meddling in the affairs of other countries. And we see how much the US has listened to that. Uh, and I will say I've got big issue with the two-party system. I think that contributes to the whole voting against someone or something as opposed to voting for. There's no rule that says the US only has to have two political parties. I think the two political parties like to squash any third or fourth party from making any headway because that's how they one of the ways that they can stay in power. But I really wish the US had a more broad political spectrum represented by parties. I think that would make the voting experience for us a lot different. Um, and the electoral college, that's a whole nother thing. Um, Try explaining the electoral college to 12-year-olds. No fun. No fun. Okay. Yay me. Couture crochet. I am registered in one country and living in another in which I do not want to vote. I know the politics where I was. I knew the politics here, and I can't get behind nobody. It be like that sometimes. For real. For real. Okay. Thank you for reminding me what I was saying. Hard to navigate the landscape of those. Okay. As those of us who are outside, um, you know, and I think when we vote, we want to feel like our vote is going to result in some substantial change. And again, as a Gen Xer, And after witnessing so much nonsense over the last few years, it's hard to be anything but very pessimistic about those things. Um, so yeah. Um, I'm about to make a very big shift in the conversation because I don't know. Um, I wanted to talk to y'all about like the whole like going back home, visiting home. A question I get fairly often when I share like my life living abroad. Like especially when I am in sessions, coaching sessions with people who are planning a move abroad and trying to work out their budget and build in for those visits back to their home country. And I'll get asked, well, like, how often do you visit? And as I just told y'all, I don't really like planning a visit to the US is not part of what I do. I When I find that I have a need to be there, I then build that out um, into a visit. But like when I start, like I'm starting to look at travel plans for 2023, and not on, it's not a, it's going to sound bad. It's not a priority. It's not a big thing on my list to be like, oh, and I need to make sure I get back to Texas X amount of times over the next year. If it works out that way, that's fine. But like, I don't try to work it out. So because I knew I would be heading there in October, I told y'all, like I had ordered fabric, that sort of thing. I'm trying to think of those things that what are the things I can't get in Mexico that I'll want to bring back. Um, Hold on a sec. Y'all know that this is my carry-on bag. This is it. This is the entire bag. This is a extra small aviator bag from Red Ox. I like it because it's like a bag of plenty. It's like a Mary Poppins bag. I can travel for a month in this bag, and I have traveled internationally for a month in this bag. And it fits under the seat in front. So like when you are boarding the plane and they're trying to make everybody hurry up and they tell you like, oh, we don't have any more overhead bin space, but they really do, but they just want you to check your bag so you can get on really quickly. This bag, they never count it as a carry-on bag. They kind of consider this a personal item. It fits under the seat. So uh I this is my typical bag, and this is what I typically carry travel with also, because I don't like paying for bags. And now it the cheapest ticket is the, what do you call it, economy, basic economy, does not include a bag. So this I'm sharing my little travel hack with y'all. Okay, this bag is by a company. It's a American company. It is run by veterans. It's called Red Ox, and Ox has two X's in it. This particular bag is called the Aviator, and this is an extra small aviator. This is typically the bag I travel with. Well, I already told y'all I have I got several fabric orders that are waiting on me. I'm probably going to bring back some screwball whiskey because I cannot get that here. And of course, I cannot carry a liquid that big in my carry-on. So, how do I bring back a checked bag without having to pay for a checked bag on my way there? This was much easier when Southwest Airlines flew to Mexico City because I got two free checked bags. I didn't care, it didn't matter. Southwest stopped flying to Mexico City, and now I have to deal with either like Delta Aero Mexico or what do you call it? United. So here's my hack for that. This is a military duffel bag, I guess, but I take it in my carry-on because I fold it up. I put it in my carry-on, and then I have it, and I only have to check a bag on the way back. Okay, Shonda says, I go to the counter and pay for a box and check my box of liquor. I wish they sold Screwball at duty free. That would make my life so much easier, but they don't. Or at least not none of the ones that I have checked. So in my tiny carry-on bag, I will have the big bag with me so that I can fill that up, and that'll be my check bag. The downside is it does not have any wheels, but it does have straps. So I put that on my shoulders, and that's how I bring my stuff back. Um, yeah. So I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I saw a question here about Mia. Uh, and I know you have the fur baby too. Uh, with her, I think this is the biggest scam. I have to reserve her place on the plane because she rides in cabin under the seat. They only allow so many animals on a given flight. How many depends on the kind of airplane. So I booked my flight, and then what I typically do is immediately in that 24 hours after I have booked my flight, I try to, or I do it one of two ways. If I am considering a specific flight, I might call the airline and be like, how many pet spaces do y'all have? Do y'all still have space for pets on this flight before I buy it? That's how I used to do it pre-COVID. But because of the long phone wait times that we have seen since then, uh, that that became almost impossible. So what I do is I book my ticket. I always book my flights direct with the airline, and so then I will call to add her. And if there is no space because I'm still within the 24 hours, I can cancel my flight. No problem. So I think it's the biggest scam that what a lot of the airlines do is they say that a pet in cabin is your carry-on. So you don't get a carry-on, and you have to pay for the privilege of storing your animal under the seat in front of you. I think that is a huge scam, because if I'm going to pay, let me buy a ticket. I could buy her a whole seat and just put her bag on the seat. And they're like, no, no. So I had to make a separate reservation for her, and pay for that. She has to pay each way. There is no discount like how sometimes you can get a cheaper round trip ticket than you can a one-way ticket. I have not found any airline that does that with pets. So yeah, I have taken it upon myself that I will not be denied a carry-on because I have the dog with me. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's like I have paid for an additional bag. So I continue to have my personal item, which I usually count this as a personal item, depending on where I'm going. Like someplace, like when I first came to Mexico in 2017, I had this black bag, I had the dog, and my carry-on was my sewing machine. And that's how I came. Um, but yeah, I still take a carry-on. I don't care what the airline says, but a lot of them are like, no. That they don't allow that. I know you don't love Amazon, but have you considered a store for the items you prefer? Honestly, now that I'm 6 years into this life, there's very little that I have to get from the US. Um, because I made a list, and it's more of just convenience kind of things. Like, there's plenty of whiskey here, but the specific whiskey I want is not here. Um, so and like, I know there will be people who will be like, oh, but what about grits and what about seasonings? Y'all know I don't cook. I don't eat grits. So, like, that's not a thing. So I don't know that the handful of items that I can't get here, or if I did get them here, the price would just be obnoxious. I don't know that it's enough to justify that. I don't know. I don't know what the status of emotional support animals is here in Mexico. When I first moved here, they were recognized. I don't know if they still are. Mia has never, it's really, I'm more her emotional support human than the other way around. So I don't know what the status of that is. Um, so I don't know, but as far as paperwork, like, she's just always flown as a pet in cabin. Um, and I've just always had to come off the money, you know. I've not loved that. And like I said, I think it's a huge scam, because if she's counting as my carry-on, and my carry-on is included in the price of my flight, then why I got to pay for the dog? Because although there have been flights where I have taken her out of the bag, that's not really allowed. And so almost every airline is, you got to keep them in the bag. The bag has to be closed, and it has to stay under the seat. So I don't get what I'm paying for. But um, they're always trying to look for ways to get more money out of us. You know how that goes. Uh Miss, I don't cook. Did you make homemade peanut butter? Yes, I did. My house still smells like roasted peanuts right now. Um, I don't count that as cooking. That's like survival stuff. And here's the thing, I can buy natural peanut butter without all the additives here. When I lived in Honduras, that was a harder thing to do, because there very little is manufactured in Honduras. So peanut butter is not a Honduran thing. So any peanut butter in the country was imported, and there were very few, really very few brands that were imported that were just peanuts. I have a picture of, I went to this is one of the things you learn when you live outside the US that is very different than being in the US. The idea that you go into the store today, they have something on the shelf, that they will continue to carry that. There is no guarantee. And I didn't understand that at first. But once I did understand that, um, I went to, it was kind of an upscale, I guess, for Honduras grocery store. And they had like a peanut butter brand that basically was just peanuts. If there was anything extra, it was very minimal. And basically, I bought every jar they had on the shelf. Like, my cart was full of jars of peanut butter. Uh, and so after having that experience, because I didn't know when they would carry it again, literally the first question I asked when I joined the foreigner expat group from Mexico City, like the Black expat group from Mexico City, my first question was, what is the availability of natural peanut butter? And it is available here. There is even a like high-end grocery store that has the grinders where you put the peanuts in and you make your own peanut butter. It's really expensive. And here there are Mexican brand peanut butters. The problem is that they've got all that extra stuff in them. So I could buy natural peanut butter here, but I can also buy roasted peanuts for like 75 cents a kilo. something like that. So I just order, 5, 6 kilos and make it myself. It's just easier that way. And I don't have to deal with lots of empty jars because I just clean them and reuse them. So that's why I make my own peanut butter. F doctor, is this question for me or is it for somebody else? Uh there was no local peanut butter in Honduras. There's like a lot of stuff that I didn't understand this. See, this is this is one of those things you learn when you leave the US. Everybody talks about like, oh, the cost of living is going to be so much lower in Central America. What they don't tell you is a lot of Central American countries, their economies are very like export driven. So the few things that are produced there, like bananas and I don't know what else, it's exported. And so they import a lot of things. So it was actually more expensive for me to live in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, than it was for me to live here in Mexico City. I paid more in rent. I paid more for groceries. Um, I probably paid more for utilities and internet. Where I lived, it was just all like it was like, oh, $100 extra, and that includes everything. So I'm pretty sure I paid more there because it's almost like living on an island. They manufactured very little, or at least the things that I wanted to consume, they did not make. Okay. So yeah. So I actually started making my own peanut butter when I was there because I could not find it. Okay, I feel like I missed something in the conversation because what is this about a peacock? Because all of a sudden I come to this one comment is like, I'm not judging, but I'm wondering how do you buy a peacock? And I'm looking like, where the hell is that coming from? Oh my gosh. Okay. Now, when I this bag is what I use when I travel virtually everywhere. I had this bag and then I have like a tote where I keep my laptop, my camera, that kind of stuff. When I am moving from one country to another, I've told y'all I have those soft-sided trunks, those deployment bags that have wheels on them because um like having someone help you at the airport is not always an option. So I wanted to be able to at least pull those bags. I had considered some bags that did not have wheels so that I could have more weight because this is this is another little move abroad thing that you learn. Everybody talks about like how big the bag is, how much you can fit in it. I have because of the size of my bags, which are the largest regular size bags you're allowed to have. I've never had an issue about running out of space. What I run out of is a weight allotment because if you're buying a economy ticket, you typically can bring 50 pounds or 23 kilos. Well, in your bag, my bag that has wheels, I got to subtract the weight of those wheels from my 50 pounds. So instead of really being able to put 50 pounds in a bag, I can only put about 40. So I briefly considered bags that did not have wheels on them. But then I thought through the logistics of that and like, how is that going to work? I'm going to sling that over my shoulder, and I got a dog and whatever. So that's the sacrifice that I have had to make it by choosing the bags that I did. Um, Oh, okay. Open season for healthcare. I had not considered that. Do I need to? Because I don't want American healthcare. So I don't have health insurance in the US, and that's another reason I don't spend a lot of time there is because if I did have something happen, you know, it would not be it would not be good. So no, I I was not considering open season. Now, I have seen in a couple of like live abroad groups, people who live in friendlier states than Texas have Medicaid. So that when they're in the US, if something goes wrong, they can use Medicaid to seek medical treatment. I do not believe that Texas extended Medicaid coverage. So that's not really an option for me. But if you live in a state that actually likes people, that might be an option for you. Okay. uh, I just Googled what sound a peacock makes. Now I'm judging. Peacocks do make a very unique trill sound. One of the camps I went to as a kid, they had peacocks loose, and so I know very well what that sound sounds like. Yeah. All right, y'all. I kind of veered off of our original topic, but yeah, I am gearing up to go vote tomorrow. I'm not sure who the Adelia was that booked this ticket at 5 a.m. Because I'm not looking forward to that. Typically, when I fly out of the Mexico City airport, I really, even if it's an international flight, I really only need to be to the airport. Um, like an hour and a half before the flight, unless it's like the middle of holiday flying season. But because I have the dog and they won't let me check in online, I have to check in early enough that, like, everything can be situated. So I've probably got to get to the airport at like 2 a.m. I'm not looking forward to that. I don't know what I was thinking when I booked this ticket. Apparently I was not thinking. Okay. Tolo reading? Tulo reading? Could you change your residency in the US? A lot of RVs use South Dakota. Yes. But and I don't remember if South Dakota is one of the states that does not have an income tax. Um, but that's one of the reasons I continue to be domiciled in Texas is because Texas does not have an income tax. I have never paid a state income tax, and I am not about that life. And I own property in the state of Texas. So I don't, and also because I don't really plan to be in the US, so it doesn't seem to me to be worth it for me to move everything so I can get medical coverage for a place that I don't really plan to be. Technically, the Mexican insurance policy that I have, health insurance, does cover me internationally and is supposed to cover me in the US, although the limits are not in line with what medical care costs in the United States. So like I said, that's just one of the reasons why I try and limit my time there. The flight to Houston is about 2 hours. But because of the time change, my flight leaves here at 5. I should get there around 8 because of the time change. Normally, I would just get there 2 hours later. So yeah, so uh, that is the plan over the weekend tomorrow. I'm first thing I'm gonna go do is get my booster. Then right after that, I've already looked up the early voting locations near where I am going to get my booster, so I can just knock them out 1, 2. Um, then there are a couple of things on my list of products I need to bring back with me that I could not order online and have mailed, that I will try and pick up. And then that's it. And I'll be back in Mexico City on Monday. Yeah. So, Friday, I thought early voting went through the 4th in Texas, in Harris County, but I plan to vote tomorrow. Uh, no, first of all, I don't have any kind of lounge anything, but it's not it's the reason I need to go is to check in with the airline for the dog. So, because otherwise I would roll up there like right before the flight. I did that. Where's the last place I went? I flew to the US a few weeks ago. I flew to Miami and uh I was late because y'all notice this bag is not packed. There's nothing in it because I always pack last minute. Um, and I was leaving the house late because I packed at the last minute. And even then, it from the time the Uber dropped me off and I went through check-in and got boarding passes and all of that and through security, I think it was a whole 15 minutes. So normally it doesn't take very long. Um, but because I need to check in with the dog and I don't want what happened in July when we were trying to go to Cancun and they were like, but you don't have a seat. Like I guess they gave away my seat. The dog, because I paid for her, she had a spot on the plane, but I did not have a seat. Or maybe I didn't have a seat that they would allow me to have the dog underneath. I don't know because we were trying to do this in Spanglish. So I probably missed something there. But she was like, yeah, you don't have a seat. So they had to bump me to a later flight. And so I don't want anything like that to happen. And because I can't check in like today, I don't want to leave that to chance. So I'll have to get there early, which I'm not enthusiastic about. But, there are worse things in life. Okay. Uh, let me tell y'all something about that new airport. I fly from the old airport from Benito Juarez International Airport in Mexico City. You will even if the flight were for free, you would not catch me at that new airport. I I, I don't know. I don't know what would make me fly from the new Felipe Angeles Airport in Mexico City. No, absolutely not. There's nothing good. That airport, y'all, I don't even know how I would get there because I don't think Uber goes there. And if they do, the Uber would probably cost me as much as the flight. It is so far away from the city. It is so far away. Okay. All right, y'all. I think we've talked about it. Um So I will check in with y'all next week. Um, I do plan to edit all of this video footage that I have of the videos I've been promising y'all. That's coming. The last few weeks have been a little crazy with travel and then guests in town for Day of the Dead and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, we will be back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Uh, is this question for me? Because I'm confused. Oh, but while we're finding out if this question is for me, I didn't even mention to y'all. Y'all might not know that on November 18th, I am hosting a workshop with Ivana Robinson, life and leadership coach. If you attended Exodus Summit, you recognize Ivana. She was one of the speakers. Our workshop is called How to Align Your Goals, Time, and Money. It is a free workshop. And I did not think ahead and put the link in the description, but here it is. Bit dash. gosh. Okay, so here is the how to trying to type and talk, how to align your goals, time, and money free workshop. Okay, so I'm wondering if the question about the IG live was about that because Ivana and I went live on Instagram today. If you missed that, if you either go to her Instagram, Ivana run the run the world, or mine, Picky Girl Travels, you can see that. Um, I don't think I have anything scheduled for tomorrow because I'm traveling tomorrow. I think I might have an IG live on Friday. I gotta look at my calendar because if it's up here, it's got to be written down somewhere. Okay. So I see lots of y'all have signed up. Yay. Yay. Looking forward to seeing y'all on the 18th. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be around the internet somewhere. And then, of course, we will be back here next Wednesday. If you have not subscribed, please do that. Turn on notifications, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye, guys.